Thunder cracked so hard it shook the windows. Rain fell in thick sheets, hammering the rooftops, chasing every bit of light from the sky. On a quiet street lined with lampposts, one house had its lights still burning. From inside came the sound of shouting. Cold, furious, final. Get out. Get out of my house right now. The voice belonged to Johnson. His words echoed into the storm, rolling out through the open door. In the yellow light of the hallway stood Mary, clutching a small brown suitcase to her chest, her hair sticking to her face, her eyes red from crying. "Please, Johnson," she sobbed, her voice breaking beneath the crash of thunder. "Please don't do this." But Johnson's eyes were hard, his jaw clenched. 7 years, Mary. 7 years and you've given me nothing. Not one child. He yanked the suitcase from her hands and hurled it out into the night. It landed in a puddle with a heavy splash, rain washing over it until the leather turned dark. "Please," Mary whispered, falling to her knees. "Let's go to the doctor together. Maybe there's something they can do." "I don't need any tests," Johnson shouted. "A real man doesn't need to be tested. Everyone knows. It's always the woman's fault." Behind him, arms folded and lips pressed tight, stood Mrs. Margaret, his mother. Her presence filled the room colder than the rain outside. "My son is right," she said sharply. "A woman who cannot give children is not a real wife." Mary reached out a trembling hand toward the man she loved. "Johnson, you promised to love me forever." His face twisted. "That was before I knew you were Barren." He grabbed her arm, pulled her up roughly, and pushed her toward the door. His voice cut through the storm like a blade. "I want you out. Tonight." Mary stumbled forward, her shoes sliding through a puddle that had already formed on the porch. She bent down, picked up her soaking suitcase with shaking fingers. Behind her, Johnson slammed the door, and the lock clicked home. The sound seemed to echo forever against the thunder. Mary stood in the rain, shivering, water running down her face. She looked up at the house they had once built with love, the flowers she had planted, the curtains she had sewn, and whispered through her tears, one day you will know the truth." Then, with her heart as heavy as the storm clouds above, she turned and walked away into the darkness, carrying her broken suitcase and her broken heart. But what Johnson didn't know was that this was not the end of Mary's story. It was only the beginning. Hello everyone, welcome to our story. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss our stories. And in the comments, tell us where you are watching from. New York, Jamaica, South Africa, or Trinidad and Tobago. We love hearing from you. Once upon a time, in a crowded city filled with honking cars and glowing streetlights, there lived a young man named Johnson and a gentle young woman named Mary. When they first met, it felt like a dream. Johnson was 25, tall, ambitious, handsome. He had a quick smile and a fire in his eyes. He dreamed of owning his own company, being respected, proving he was somebody. But behind those dreams lurked something darker. The desperate need for everyone to see him as a real man. Mary was 23, with a soft voice and a heart so kind that people seemed to breathe easier around her. She worked as a secretary in a small office. Everyone there adored her because she never raised her voice and always found reasons to smile. They met at a friend's wedding. Johnson noticed her first, blue dress, hair curling under the lantern lights, laughter brighter than the music. He felt his chest tighten. "Who's that?" he whispered to his friend Victor. "That's my cousin Mary," Victor grinned. "Want me to introduce you?" "Yes," Johnson said immediately. One handshake became a conversation. One conversation became late-night phone calls, long walks, and shared ice cream cones on hot days. Within 6 months they were inseparable. He proposed with a simple silver ring. He didn't have much, but what he did have, he offered with all his heart. Mary cried tears of happiness and said yes. Their wedding was small but beautiful. A white dress sewn by Mary's mother, a blue tie borrowed from Victor, friends dancing barefoot on the grass. Johnson's mother, Mrs. Margaret, smiled politely for the cameras but whispered to a neighbor, "My son could have done better. That girl's family is too poor." Still, for the first 2 years, life was sweet. They rented a modest home on the corner of a quiet street. Mary painted the walls sunflower yellow because she said it matched Johnson's smile. She filled the garden with roses. She packed him lunch every morning. When business was slow, she used her own paycheck to pay the bills without complaining. "Don't worry," she would tell him when he came home tired and tense. "Your business will grow. I believe in you." And she was right. Slowly, customers came. Johnson's electronics company began to thrive. Money flowed steadier each month, and they could finally save for their own home. But happiness can be fragile. Months turned into years, and one dream still hadn't come true. There was no child's cry in their house. At first they both shrugged it off. "It'll happen when it's meant to happen," Mary said. But after 3 years the whispers started. "Why don't they have a baby yet?" neighbors murmured. Some smiled at her with pity, some with judgment. After the 5th year, the whispers grew loud enough to echo into Johnson's mind. And worst of all, his mother's voice joined the chorus. "A good wife makes a man a father," Mrs. Margaret said one evening, sitting in their living room with arms folded. 7 years and still nothing. What are people supposed to think? Each visit grew sharper, each look colder. Her words burned into Johnson's pride like acid. Mary tried to ignore it. She told herself if she just loved him harder, cooked better, prayed longer, everything would be fine. But you can't feed a heart that's already turning to stone. By the 6th year, Johnson barely looked at her. He stopped holding her hand. He stopped laughing when she told stories about work. When she tried to kiss him goodnight, he turned onto his side and pretended to sleep. "Michael's boy is already helping at the shop," his friends would brag. "Peter's son just made top scores in school." They'd slap Johnson's shoulder and laugh. "When are you giving us good news, eh?" Still trying? Each joke cracked another piece of him. Pride replaced love. And Mrs. Margaret whispered poison. "You're strong, my son. There's nothing wrong with our family. The problem is her. You can't waste your life waiting for the barren to bear fruit." Finally, Johnson believed her. 7 years after they said, "I do," Mrs. Margaret gave her son the final push. "End it," she said. "She's blocking your destiny." So on that storm-soaked evening, Johnson did exactly that. Mary stumbled through the wet streets, her suitcase rattling behind her on one broken wheel. Rain fell so hard she could barely see. Every few steps she slipped, catching herself on cold bricks. With every roll of thunder, she hoped, just for a heartbeat, that she'd hear his voice calling her back. But the only voice was the sky itself, angry and endless. She had nowhere to go. Her parents were gone, 3 years dead. No brothers, no sisters, no one close enough to take her in. Only her cousin Veronica, who lived hours away in another city. Mary found a small bus shelter and sat down on the cold metal bench, dripping and shaking. Her brown suitcase sat beside her, the bottom soaked. She pulled out her old phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the one number that might save her. "Hello?" came Veronica's sleepy voice. "Ronnie," Mary rasped. She was crying so hard the words broke apart. "It's me. It's Mary." "Mary? What's wrong? Why are you calling so late?" He threw me out," Mary whispered. "Johnson threw me out of the house. I have nowhere to go." There was a pause. Then Veronica's voice snapped awake with fury. "He did what?" "Oh, Mary, oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Where are you right now?" "At a bus shelter near the house." "I'm wet. I'm so cold. Listen to me." Veronica's tone changed, firm and steady, the kind of voice that pulls you out of deep water. "Tomorrow morning, you come here. First bus to Riverside City. You remember, right? That's where I moved last summer. You'll stay with me until you figure things out." "I don't want to be a burden," Mary whispered. "You are not a burden. You're my family. First bus, do you hear me? Now find somewhere sheltered for the night. Just stay safe." "And Mary, yes? This is not your fault. Do you understand me? None of this is your fault." Mary pressed the phone to her chest after the call ended. She wanted to believe her cousin, but doubt crept in like the rain through her shoes. What if it was true? What if she really couldn't give him what he wanted? What if she really was a curse? All night long she sat awake on that bench, shivering, praying for the first light of dawn. Every time she heard an engine, she looked up, hoping to see headlights she recognized, hoping against hope it might be Johnson coming to make it right. He never came. By morning her body ached, her hands numb from cold. But she stood, wiped her face, and walked to the nearest bus station. She traded most of the money left in her purse for one ticket, one way to Riverside City. For 4 long hours, rain streamed down the glass as the bus cut through open countryside. Mary leaned her head against the window, watching the only life she knew fade behind her. Somewhere back there was the house that once smelled like flowers and Sunday dinners. Somewhere back there was the man she had loved more than logic. "Goodbye, Johnson," she whispered. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for." A mother and her 3 children sat behind her. The children's laughter hurt and healed her at once. She wondered if she would ever hear such laughter in her own home. When the bus finally rolled into Riverside City, the afternoon sun broke through the last of the clouds. The streets were crowded, the buildings taller, noisier, alive. Mary stepped off the bus with her suitcase heavy in her hand, feeling terribly small among so many strangers. Then she heard it, Someone calling her name. Mary! Mary, over here! She turned and saw Veronica running toward her across the station floor, waving both hands. Her smile was wide and real. Mary dropped her suitcase and ran straight into her cousin's arms. For the first time in days, the tears that came were not from pure pain. They were from relief. Shh, Veronica whispered, wrapping her arms tightly around her. It's all right now. You're safe. I've got you. You're safe. Veronica was 30 years old and 5 years older than Mary. She was strong and confident, everything Mary wished she could be. They took a taxi to Veronica's apartment. It was small but clean and bright. There was a little balcony with plants and flowers. It's not much, Veronica said, but it's home. It's beautiful, Mary said, and she meant it. That first week, Mary barely left the apartment. She would wake up in the middle of the night crying. She couldn't eat. She felt like a shell of the person she used to be. Veronica would sit with her and hold her hand. You need to be strong, Veronica would say. I know it hurts now, but this pain won't last forever. But what if he was right? Mary would cry. What if there really is something wrong with me? Stop that talk right now, Veronica would say firmly. There is nothing wrong with you. Johnson was a fool to let you go. A complete fool. Slowly, day by day, Mary started to feel a little bit better. Veronica helped her find new clothes since most of her things were ruined by the rain. She took her out for walks in the park. She made her laugh with funny stories. After 2 weeks, Veronica sat Mary down for a serious talk. Mary, I love having you here. You can stay as long as you want, but I think you need to start building a new life. You need a job. You need purpose. Mary nodded slowly. You're right. I can't just sit around feeling sorry for myself forever. That's my girl. Veronica smiled. Now I have good news. I work at Riverside General Hospital in the administration office. We're looking for someone to help with accounting. You used to work as a secretary, right? You're good with numbers. Yes, Mary said. I help Johnson with his business accounts all the time. Perfect. Tomorrow you're coming with me to the hospital. I'll introduce you to me boss, Mrs. Patricia. She's very nice. I think she'll like you. The next morning, Mary put on one of the new dresses Veronica bought for her. It was simple and professional, a navy blue dress that made her look serious and capable. Her hands shook as she buttoned it up. She hadn't worked in a proper job for a while. What if she wasn't good enough? What if they didn't like her? Stop worrying, Veronica said, straightening Mary's collar. You're smart and hardworking. They'll be lucky to have you. Riverside General Hospital was huge. It was 5 stories tall with white walls and big glass windows. Doctors and nurses rushed around everywhere. The smell of medicine filled the air. Mary felt very small and nervous. Veronica led her to the 3rd floor where the administration offices were. They walked into a bright office where a woman with glasses and gray hair sat behind a big desk. Mrs. Patricia, Veronica said cheerfully. This is my cousin Mary the First told you about. Mrs. Patricia looked up and smiled warmly. Yes, Mary, please sit down. Mary sat down, trying to keep her hands from shaking. Mrs. Patricia asked her many questions. What jobs had she done before? Was she good with computers? Could she work with numbers? Mary answered each question as best as she could. She told the truth. She had been a secretary. She had helped manage her husband's business accounts, and she was a quick learner. Well, Mary, Mrs. Patricia said after 20 minutes, I think you would be perfect for our accounting department. When can you start? Mary's eyes went wide. Really? You mean I got the job? Yes, dear. You got the job? Mrs. Patricia smiled. You can start next Monday. We'll train you on everything you need to know. When they left the office, Mary turned to Veronica with tears in her eyes. But this time they were happy tears. I got a job, she whispered. I actually got a job. Veronica hugged her tight. See, I told you this is your new beginning, Mary. Your new life starts now. Mary worked very hard at her new job. She arrived early every morning and stayed late every evening. She learned quickly and never complained. Mrs. Patricia was very pleased. Mary, you're doing excellent work, she would say. I'm so glad Veronica recommended you. 3 months passed. Mary was starting to feel like herself again. She was starting to smile more, starting to hope again. One Tuesday afternoon, Mary was organizing files in the accounting office when Mrs. Patricia called her. Mary, dear, I need you to help with something. We're having a medical outreach event this Saturday at the community center. We need someone to help register people and manage the paperwork. Would you be willing to help? Of course, Mary said. I'd be happy to help. That Saturday, Mary arrived at the community center early. Tables were set up everywhere. Doctors and nurses were preparing their stations. There were stations for checking blood pressure, testing blood sugar, and giving free medical advice. Mary's job was to sit at the registration table and write down people's names and information. Soon, people started arriving. There were old people, young people, mothers with babies, everyone. Mary worked quickly, making sure everyone got registered properly. Around lunchtime, A tall man with kind eyes walked up to her table. He was wearing a white doctor's coat and had a stethoscope around his neck. "Hello," he said with a warm smile. "I'm Dr. Gideon. I'm one of the gynecologists here today. I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work. You're doing a great job organizing everything." Mary felt her cheeks get warm. "Oh, thank you, doctor. I'm just happy to help. Is this your first time volunteering with us?" Asked. "Yes, sir. I work in the accounting department at the hospital. Mrs. Patricia asked me to help today." "Well, we're lucky to have you." He smiled again and then walked back to his station. Mary watched him go. There was something gentle and calm about him, something that made her feel safe. Throughout the day, Mary noticed Dr. Gideon treating his patients with so much care and kindness. He never rushed them. He listened carefully to everything they said. He explained things in simple words they could understand. "That's a good doctor," an old woman said to Mary. "Dr. Gideon helped my daughter when other doctors gave up. He's like an angel." At the end of the day, after all the patients had gone home, the doctors and volunteers started packing up. Dr. Gideon walked over to Mary's table again. "You must be tired. You've been working non-stop all day." "I'm okay," Mary said, though her feet did hurt from standing so long. "Here, let me help you carry these boxes to the van." He picked up 2 heavy boxes of files before Mary could protest. As they walked to the van together, Dr. Gideon said, "Mrs. Patricia told me you're new to the hospital. How are you liking Riverside City so far?" "It's nice," Mary said carefully. "Different from where I used to live, but nice." "Where did you live before?" "Wellington City. But I moved here to start fresh." Dr. Gideon nodded as if he understood there was more to the story. But he wouldn't push her to tell it. "Starting fresh can be hard," he said gently, "but it can also be the best thing we ever do for ourselves." Mary looked at him surprised. It was like he knew exactly what she was feeling. After they loaded all the boxes, Dr. Gideon said, "Well, Mary, it was very nice working with you today. I hope to see you at the next outreach event." "Thank you, doctor. Have a good evening." As Mary rode home with Veronica that night, she felt something strange. She felt lighter, like a tiny bit of the heaviness in her heart had lifted. "You're smiling," Veronica noticed. "What happened?" "Nothing," Mary said quickly. I had a good day, that's all." But deep down, she knew it was more than that. For the first time since Johnson threw her out, she had felt like a real person again. Not just someone who was broken, not just someone who had failed. She felt like Mary again. Over the next few months, Mary kept seeing Dr. Gideon at the hospital. Sometimes she would see him in the hallway and he would always smile and say hello. Sometimes he would stop by the accounting office to drop off papers and they would chat for a few minutes. "How are you settling in?" he would ask. "Very well, thank you," Mary would reply. He never asked too many personal questions. He never made her feel uncomfortable. He was just kind. One day, about 6 months after Mary started working at the hospital, there was a big storm. The rain poured down so hard that you couldn't see across the street. Thunder beamed and lightning flashed. Mary finished work at 5 and just like always. But when she looked outside, her heart sank. The rain was terrible. She didn't have an umbrella, and the bus stop was 3 blocks away. "I guess I'll just have to run for it," she thought. She was about to step outside when a voice called out, "Mary, wait!" She turned around and saw Dr. Gideon jogging toward her with a big black umbrella. "You can't go out in this rain without an umbrella," he said. "You'll catch a terrible cold." "Oh, I'll be fine," Mary started to say. "Nonsense. Where do you live?" "I have my car. I can give you a ride home." Mary hesitated. She didn't want to be a burden, but the rain was really coming down hard now. "Are you sure?" "I don't want to take you out of your way." "I'm sure," Dr. Gideon said with a smile. "Come on, before we both get soaked just standing here." They ran through the parking lot together, sharing his umbrella. Dr. Gideon opened the car door for Mary like a true gentleman, making sure she got in safely before running around to his side. Inside the car, Mary gave him Veronica's address. As they drove through the rainy streets, Dr. Gideon turned on some soft music. It was peaceful and calm. "Thank you for this," Mary said. "You're very kind." "It's not rubble at all," he replied. "Actually, I'm glad for the company. It's nice not to drive home alone. Don't you have a mean, doesn't your family?" Mary stopped, realizing she was asking if he was married. "I'm sorry. That's none of my business." Dr. Gideon chuckled softly. "It's okay. No, I'm not married. I was engaged once many years ago, but it didn't work out. And you? I hope you don't mind me asking?" Mary's heart tightened. I was married, but not anymore." "I'm sorry," Dr. Gideon said gently. He didn't ask for details. He just said, "Sometimes things don't work out the way we plan, but that doesn't mean better things aren't waiting for us." Mary looked at him, surprised by his wisdom. "Do you really believe that?" "I do," he said firmly. I see it every day at the hospital. People come in broken, sick, hopeless. But with time, care, and faith, they heal. They become whole again. Life has a way of surprising us. When they arrived at Veronica's apartment building, the rain had slowed down a little bit. "Thank you, again, Dr. Gideon," Mary said as she unbuckled her seatbelt. "Please call me Gideon. We're friends now, aren't we?" Mary smiled. "Yes, friends. Good night, Gideon." "Good night, Mary." As Mary walked into the apartment, Veronica was cooking dinner. She took one look at Mary's face and grinned. "Why are you smiling like that?" Veronica asked. "Like what?" Mary touched her face. "Like someone just made your day. Who drove you home?" "I saw a car from the window. Dr. Gideon gave me a ride because of the rain. That's all. Dr. Gideon, huh?" Veronica's grin got bigger. "The handsome gynecologist everyone talks about. Veronica." Mary's cheeks turned red. "It's not like that. He's just being nice," Veronica said, stirring the pot. "Well, nice looks good on you. You're smiling more these days." Mary couldn't deny it. She was smiling more. And for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel completely broken. 2 weeks later, the hospital was celebrating its 20th anniversary. There was going to be a big party in the hospital's event hall. All the staff were invited. Mary didn't want to go at first. "I'm not good at parties," she told Veronica. "I'll just stay home." "Oh, no, you don't," Veronica said firmly. "You're going. You work there now. You need to socialize with your colleagues. Besides, I'll be there with you. But I don't have anything nice to wear. We'll go shopping tomorrow. No more excuses." The next day, Veronica dragged Mary to the mall. They went into a dress shop, and Veronica picked out a beautiful emerald green dress. "Try this one," she said, pushing Mary toward the dressing room. When Mary came out wearing the dress, even she had to admit it looked nice. The color made her brown skin glow. It was simple but elegant. "You look beautiful." Veronica clapped her hands. "We're buying this one." On the night of the party, Mary felt nervous. She put on the green dress, brushed her hair until it shined, and put on a little bit of makeup. "You look amazing," Veronica said. "Now let's go have some fun." The hospital's event hall was decorated with balloons and streamers. There was music playing and tables full of delicious food. Doctors, nurses, and staff members were all dressed up and laughing together. Mary and Veronica found a table near the back and sat down. Mary felt a bit out of place, but Veronica kept making her laugh with funny stories about different people in the room. "See that doctor over there?" Veronica whispered. "He once fell asleep during a meeting and started snoring so loud, everyone thought the fire alarm was going off." Mary giggled. Then she saw Gideon across the room. He was wearing a nice black suit and talking with some other doctors. He looked very handsome, as if he could feel her looking at him. Gideon turned and their eyes met. He smiled and waved. Mary waved back, feeling her heartbeat a little faster. A few minutes later, Gideon walked over to their table. "Good evening, ladies," he said cheerfully. "Veronica, Mary, you both look lovely tonight." "Thank you, doctor," Veronica said with a knowing smile. "Mary, would you like to dance?" Gideon asked, holding out his hand. Mary's eyes went wide. "Oh, I'm not a very good dancer." "Neither am I," Gideon said with a warm smile. "But we can be not very good together. What do you say?" Mary looked at Veronica, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, Mary placed her hand in Gideon's. He led her to the dance floor where a slow song was playing. Other couples were swaying gently to the music. Gideon placed one hand on Mary's waist and held her other hand gently. They started moving slowly to the music. "See," Gideon said. "We're not so bad." Mary laughed nervously. "You're just being nice." "I'm being honest," he said. "Mary, can I tell you something?" "Of course. I really enjoy our conversations, even the short ones in the hallway. You have a gentle spirit. It's refreshing." Mary didn't know what to say. No one had said anything like that to her in so long. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're very easy to talk to as well." They danced for 3 songs. Mary forgot about being nervous. She forgot about feeling broken. In that moment, she just felt peaceful. When the music ended, Gideon walked her back to her table. "Thank you for the dance," he said. "Thank you for asking me," Mary replied. After he walked away, Veronica grabbed Mary's arm. "Girl, he likes you. Did you see the way he was looking at you?" "Veronica, stop," Mary said, but she was smiling. "We're just friends." "Friends don't look at each other like that," Veronica said wisely. "Trust me." That night, as Mary lay in bed, she thought about everything. About how different her life was now compared to a year ago. About how she never thought she would smile again. But here she was smiling. Maybe, just maybe, good things could still happen to her. A few weeks after the party, Mary started feeling very tired all the time. She would get dizzy when she stood up too quickly. Sometimes she felt like she might faint. "You don't look well," Veronica said one morning. "Maybe you should see a doctor." "I'm fine," Mary insisted. "I'm probably just working too hard." But the tiredness got worse. One day at work, Mary was walking down the hallway when suddenly the whole world started spinning. She grabbed the wall to steady herself. "Mary, are you okay?" It was Gideon. He rushed over and held her arm. "You're very pale. Come with me." He led her to his office and made her sit down. Then he checked her blood pressure and temperature. "Mary, when was the last time you had a full medical checkup?" he asked, looking concerned. I don't remember. It's been years." Gideon frowned. "That's not good. Your blood pressure is a bit low. You might be anemic. I want to run some tests." No, I'm fine." Mary started to protest. "Mary," Gideon said firmly but kindly, "I'm your friend, but I'm also a doctor. And as your doctor, I'm telling you that you need these tests. Please let me help you." Mary looked into his concerned eyes and finally nodded. "Okay." Over the next week, Mary went through various tests, blood tests, general health checks, everything. She felt nervous the whole time. What if they found something seriously wrong with her? Finally, Gideon called her into his office to discuss the results. Mary sat down, her hands shaking. "Is it bad news?" No, Gideon said quickly. "You're mostly healthy. You are a bit anemic, which is why you've been feeling tired. I'll prescribe some iron supplements." "But Mary," he paused, looking at her carefully. "What is it?" Mary's heart started beating faster. "While running your tests, I also did a fertility screening. I hope you don't mind. Given your age, and well, I thought it would be good to know." Mary felt like she couldn't breathe. Here it comes. "She thought the confirmation that something is wrong with me, that I really am cursed." "Mary," Gideon said gently, "there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. Your reproductive system is perfectly healthy. You are perfectly fertile." Mary stared at him. "What?" "You heard me correctly. You are not barren. You never were. If you weren't getting pregnant before, the problem was not with you." The room started spinning again, but this time not because she was sick. But my husband said, his mother said, everyone said it was my fault. 7 years. 7 years we tried and nothing happened." "How can you say the problem wasn't me?" Gideon pulled his chair closer to hers. "Mary, in about 40% of cases where a couple can't have children, the problem is with the man, not the woman. But many men refuse to get tested because of pride. They automatically blamed the woman." Tears started rolling down Mary's face. "Are you saying all those years, all that pain, all those insults, it was never my fault?" "No, Mary, it was never your fault." Mary put her face in her hands and sobbed. All those years of shame, all those nights of crying, all the times Johnson's mother called her cursed, all the times Johnson looked at her with disappointment. And it was never her fault. Gideon handed her a box of tissues and waited patiently while she cried. He didn't tell her to stop. He didn't tell her to be strong. He just let her cry. Finally, after a long time, Mary looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen, but there was something different in them now, something that looked like relief. "If Johnson had just agreed to get tested," she whispered. "If he had just listened to me." "I know," Gideon said softly, "but he didn't, and that was his loss. His pride cost him his marriage to a wonderful woman." Mary wiped her eyes. "Thank you, Gideon. Thank you for telling me the truth. I spent so long thinking I was broken." "You were never broken, Mary. You were just blamed for something that wasn't your fault." As Mary left his office that day, she felt something shifting inside her. The heavy weight of shame she had carried for so long was starting to lift. She wasn't cursed. She wasn't broken. She wasn't a failure. She was just Mary, and Mary was enough. After learning the truth about her fertility, Mary felt like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She walked taller. She smiled more. She started to believe in herself again. Veronica noticed the change immediately. "You're glowing," she said one morning. "What happened?" Mary told her everything about the tests, about what Gideon had discovered, about how she was perfectly healthy and always had been. Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Mary, I always knew it wasn't your fault. I always knew that foolish Johnson and his wicked mother destroyed you for nothing." "I know," Mary said, "but I'm not going to be angry anymore. Being angry won't change the past. I just want to move forward now." "That's very mature of you," Veronica said, hugging her cousin tight. "I'm so proud of you." Over the next few months, Mary and Gideon spent more and more time together. At first, it was just coffee in the hospital cafeteria during lunch breaks. Then it became dinner after work sometimes. Then weekend walks in the park. They would talk about everything. Books they had read, places they wanted to visit, childhood memories, dreams for the future. "What do you want most in life?" Gideon asked her one Saturday afternoon as they sat on a park bench feeding the birds. Mary thought carefully. "I want peace," she said finally. "I want to wake up every morning without feeling sad or afraid. I want to love and be loved without fear. What about you?" "I want a family," Gideon said honestly. "I've always wanted children, a house full of laughter and love. But more than that, I want a partner, someone I can share my life with, someone who understands me." He looked at Mary when he said this, and their eyes met. Mary's heart started beating faster. Was he saying what she thought he was saying? "Mary," Gideon said softly, taking her hand. "I know you've been through a lot. I know you've been hurt badly, and I don't want to rush you or pressure you, but I need you to know something." "What is it?" Mary whispered. "I've fallen in love with you," Gideon said. "I think I started falling in love with you the first day we met at that medical outreach. Your kindness, your gentle spirit, your strength, everything about you is beautiful. I know you might not be ready for a relationship yet, and that's okay. I just needed you to know how I feel." Tears filled Mary's eyes, but this time they were happy tears. "Gideon," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I was so afraid to let myself feel anything for anyone again. After Johnson, I thought my heart was dead, but you brought it back to life. You showed me that not all men are cruel, that real love is patient and kind. Does that mean—" Gideon held his breath. "Yes," Mary said, smiling through her tears. "Yes, I love you too." Gideon pulled her into a gentle hug. Right there in the park, with the birds chirping and the sun shining, two broken hearts became whole again. While Mary's life was blooming like a beautiful flower, Johnson's life was falling apart like a house built on sand. 3 months after throwing Mary out, Johnson married a woman named Rachel. She was 23 years old, pretty and confident. His mother had picked her out. "She comes from a good family," Mrs. Margaret had said. "She's young and healthy. She will give you many children." The wedding was big and expensive. Johnson spent thousands of dollars trying to impress everyone. He wanted people to forget about Mary and see that he had moved on to someone better. But from the very first day, the marriage was a disaster. Rachel was nothing like Mary. She didn't cook. She didn't clean. She spent money like water buying expensive clothes and jewelry. She would go out with her friends and come home late at night. "Where were you?" Johnson would ask. "Out," Rachel would snap. "I'm not a prisoner in this house." She was rude to Mrs. Margaret, too. One day, when Johnson's mother tried to tell her how to cook a meal, Rachel laughed in her face. "I didn't marry your son to be your servant," Rachel said coldly. "If you don't like how I do things, you can leave." Mrs. Margaret was shocked. Mary had always been respectful, even when Mrs. Margaret was cruel to her. But Rachel didn't care about anyone but herself. Worse than all of this, a whole year passed and Rachel didn't get pregnant. Then another year passed. Still no baby. Johnson started to panic. "Maybe we should see a doctor," he suggested to Rachel one evening. "Why?" Rachel said, filing her nails. "I'm young and healthy. If there's a problem, it's probably you." "How dare you say that?" Johnson shouted. "I'm a man. Men don't have those kinds of problems. Whatever." Rachel rolled her eyes and walked away. Johnson's business also started having problems. He had borrowed a lot of money to pay for the big wedding. Now he was struggling to pay it back. Some of his customers stopped buying from him. Bills kept piling up. His friend Victor came to visit him one day. Victor had been Mary's friend too, and he had been very disappointed when Johnson threw her out. "Johnson, are you okay?" Victor asked, looking around the messy house. "You don't look well." Johnson sighed deeply. He looked tired and old even though he was only 32 years old. "Everything is falling apart. Victor, my marriage is terrible. Rachel spends all my money. My business is failing and still no children." "Have you gone to see a doctor?" Victor asked carefully. "Both of you?" "Rachel refuses," Johnson said bitterly. "She says she's fine, and if there's a problem, it must be me. But that's impossible. I'm a man." Victor looked at this friend with pity. "Johnson, you know that men can have fertility problems too, right? It happens to many men. There's no shame in getting tested." "I don't need to be tested," Johnson snapped, but his voice shook. Deep down, he was starting to wonder. "What if? Oh, it couldn't be. Have you heard from Mary?" Victor asked quietly. Johnson's face darkened. "Why would you ask me about her?" "Because I saw her last month," Victor said. "She was in town for a business conference." "Johnson." "She looked amazing, happy, healthy, like a completely different person." "Good for her," Johnson said bitterly. But inside, his heart twisted with regret. "She asked about you," Victor continued. "She asked if you were well. Even after everything you did to her, she still cared enough to ask." Johnson put his head in his hands. "Please, Victor, I don't want to talk about Mary." But he couldn't stop thinking about her. Late at night, when Rachel was asleep or out with her friends, Johnson would remember Mary's gentle smile, her kindness, how she would cook his favorite meals, how she supported him when his business was struggling. He had thrown away a diamond and picked up a piece of glass instead. 2 years after Mary and Gideon started dating, he asked her to marry him. It was a beautiful evening. Gideon had taken Mary to a fancy restaurant overlooking the river. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. After dinner, Gideon got down on one knee right there in the restaurant. Everyone around them stopped and watched. "Mary," Gideon said, holding out a beautiful gold ring with a sparkling diamond. "You have made me the happiest man in the world. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Mary couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, 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 yes. The whole restaurant erupted in applause. People cheered and clapped. Some women were crying happy tears too. Gideon slipped the ring on Mary's finger and kissed her gently. It was perfect. Their wedding was small but beautiful. Just close friends and family. It was nothing like Johnson's big expensive wedding, but it was filled with real love and real joy. Mary wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel. Veronica was her maid of honor, crying happy tears the whole time. When the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," Gideon kissed Mary softly and everyone cheered. "I promise to love you and cherish you for the rest of my life," Gideon whispered to her. "And I promise to be the best wife I can be," Mary whispered back. For their honeymoon, they went to a beautiful beach resort. They spent 2 weeks swimming, walking on the beach, watching sunsets, and just being happy together. One evening, as they sat on the beach watching the waves, Gideon said, "Mary, I want you to know something. Even if we never have children, I will still be happy. You are enough for me. You will always be enough." Mary's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know how much I needed to hear that," she said. "With Johnson, I felt like I was only valuable if I could give him a child. But with you, I feel valuable just for being me." "That's because you are valuable," Gideon said, pulling her close. "You are precious and wonderful with or without children." Little did they know, God had a beautiful surprise waiting for them. 3 months after their wedding, Mary started feeling sick in the mornings. At first, she thought it was just something she ate, but when it kept happening day after day, Veronica became suspicious. "Mary," Veronica said one morning, watching her cousin run to the bathroom. "Again. When was your last period?" Mary stopped and thought about it. "I don't remember. I've been so busy. I haven't been keeping track." "Girl," Veronica said, her eyes getting wide, "I think you need to take a pregnancy test." Mary's heart started pounding. No, it can't be. I mean, we've only been married 3 months. "That's all it takes," Veronica said excitedly. "Come on, let's go buy a test right now." They rushed to the pharmacy and bought 3 different pregnancy tests just to be sure. Back at the house, Mary went into the bathroom with shaking hands. She took the first test and waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. 2 pink lines appeared. Mary's hands started shaking so badly she almost dropped the test. "It's positive," she whispered. "Take the other ones." Veronica called through the door. "Make sure." Mary took the second test. Positive. The third test. Positive. All 3 tests said the same thing. Mary was pregnant. Mary opened the bathroom door slowly. Veronica took one look at her face and screamed with joy. "You're pregnant. Oh my God. Mary, you're pregnant." The 2 cousins hugged each other and jumped up and down, laughing and crying at the same time. "I can't believe it," Mary kept saying. "I can't believe it's real." "It's real, Mary. You're going to be a mother." When Gideon came home from work that evening, Mary was waiting for him with a special surprise. She had made his favorite dinner and set the table with candles. "What's all this?" Gideon asked, smiling. "Is it a special occasion?" "Sit down," Mary said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. Gideon sat down, looking curious and a little confused. Mary placed a small wrapped box in front of him. "Open it," she said. Gideon opened the box carefully. Inside were the 3 positive pregnancy tests with a note that said, "You're going to be a daddy." Gideon's mouth fell open. He looked at the test, then at Mary, then back at the test. Are we really?" Mary nodded, tears running down her smiling face. "Yes, we're having a baby." Gideon jumped up so fast his chair fell over. He picked Mary up and spun her around, laughing with pure joy. "We're having a baby. Thank you, God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you." They held each other and cried happy tears, overwhelmed with gratitude and love. The next week, Mary went to the hospital for her first ultrasound. Gideon held her hand tightly as the technician moved the scanner over her belly. "Let's see here," the technician said, looking at the screen. Then she stopped and looked closer. "Oh my, what?" Mary asked nervously. "Is something wrong?" "Wrong? No, not at all." The technician smiled widely. "But I do have a surprise for you. You're not having one baby." Mary's heart skipped. "Twins? Not twins?" The technician turned the screen toward them. "Triplets. You're having 3 babies." Mary and Gideon stared at the screen in shock. There, clear as day, were 3 tiny heartbeats. 3 little lives growing inside Mary. 3, Mary whispered. 3 babies. 3 healthy babies. The technician confirmed. "Congratulations." Gideon started laughing and crying at the same time. 3. God didn't just answer our prayers. He gave us more than we could have imagined. Mary couldn't stop staring at the screen. The woman everyone called Barren. The woman Johnson threw away because she couldn't have children. That woman was now carrying 3 babies at once. 3, not 1. Not 2, but 3. If this wasn't a miracle, nothing was. Mary's pregnancy was hard. Carrying 3 babies made her very tired, and her belly grew huge. But Gideon was amazing. He cooked for her, rubbed her feet, and took care of her with so much love. "You're my hero," he would tell her every day. During those quiet months at home, Mary sometimes thought about Johnson. But she didn't feel angry anymore. She felt grateful. If he hadn't thrown her out, she would never have met Gideon. She would never be having these 3 precious babies. "Everything happens for a reason," she would whisper to her belly. Meanwhile, Johnson's life was falling apart. Rachel left him. One morning, he woke up to find a note. "I'm tired of this. You can't give me children. I'm leaving." His business was failing. His house was cold and empty. Nothing like the warm home Mary used to keep. His mother finally said what they both feared. "Johnson, you need to see a doctor. A fertility doctor. Maybe I was wrong about Mary." Johnson didn't want to go. But deep down, he already knew the truth. The doctor's words hit him like a punch. "Mr. Johnson, your sperm count is very low. You've likely had this condition for years. The fertility problem was with you, not your wife." Johnson stumbled to his car and broke down crying. It was him. It had always been him. He had destroyed Mary for nothing. He had thrown away a faithful wife because of his own problem. All that shame, all those accusations, all that pain he put on her, and she was innocent. When he got home, his mother took one look at his face and knew. "It was you, wasn't it?" Johnson nodded. Mrs. Margaret collapsed in her chair, crying, "Oh, God, what have we done? We destroyed that innocent girl for nothing." When Mary was 8 and 2 months pregnant, it was time for the babies to be born. In the operating room, Gideon held Mary's hand. "You're so strong, my love. Soon we'll meet our babies." Then, at 9:15 a.m., the first cry filled the room. "It's a boy." 3 minutes later, another boy. And at 9:21 a.m., and a girl. "Congratulations," Mary cried, tears of joy as the nurses brought her babies to her one by one. 3 perfect little miracles. "Hello, my loves," she whispered. "Mommy waited so long for you." They named them Daniel, Samuel, and Grace. 3 beautiful babies born to a woman the world had called barren. When Veronica saw them, she cried with joy. God took your shame and turned it into triple blessings. News spread through the hospital like wildfire. "Did you hear? Mary had triplets. The woman everyone said couldn't have children." Finally, after all those years of tears and prayers, Mary's arms were full. Her heart was full. Her life was full. The months with triplets were exhausting, but wonderful. Gideon was an amazing father, always helping with diapers and bottles. Daniel was calm and observant. Samuel was energetic and loud. Grace was sweet and always smiling. When the babies were 6 months old, Mary went back to work as assistant director of finance. But she had bigger dreams. "I want to start a foundation," she told Gideon, "to help women struggling with fertility. I'll call it Trinity Health Foundation after our 3 babies." "That's brilliant," Gideon said. "Let's do it together." And so they did. The foundation started small but grew quickly. Mary helped hundreds of women who had been blamed and shamed just like she once was. "You are not alone. You are not broken. There's hope," she would tell each woman. Within 2 years, Trinity Health Foundation was known throughout Thessaly. Mary became respected as a champion for women's health. She was proof that God can turn ashes into beauty. But Mary never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the pain of being thrown out in the rain. Now she was married Gideon wife, mother of 3, and successful CEO. Her story was far from over. 3 years after the triplets were born, Trinity Health Foundation had become one of the most successful health organizations in the region. Mary had helped over 1,000 women, and her foundation was getting national attention. One afternoon, Mary received a very special letter. It was an invitation to the City Business Excellence Awards. "Dear Mrs. Mary Gideon," the letter read, "we are pleased to inform you that Trinity Health Foundation has been nominated for the Community Impact Award. We would like to invite you to be our keynote speaker at this year's ceremony." Mary's hands shook as she read the letter. "Gideon, come look at this." Gideon read the letter and picked Mary up, spinning her around. "I'm so proud of you. You deserve this recognition." "I can't believe it," Mary said. "Me? Speaking at the City Business Awards. You've changed so many lives, Mary. Of course they want to hear your story." The triplets, now 3 years old, ran into the room. "Mommy, Daddy, what's happening?" Daniel asked. Mary knelt down and hugged all 3 of them. "Mommy has to give a big speech at an important event. Will we come too?" Grace asked, her big eyes hopeful. "Yes, sweetheart. All of you will be there with me." Over the next few weeks, Mary prepared her speech. She wanted to tell her story, the whole story about the pain, the rejection, and the miracle that followed. "Are you sure you want to share everything?" Veronica asked one evening as they practiced. "It's very personal." I'm sure, Mary said firmly. Other women need to hear it. They need to know that shame doesn't last forever. That there's always hope. The night of the awards ceremony arrived. The Grand Hotel ballroom was decorated beautifully with lights and flowers. Hundreds of people in expensive suits and elegant dresses filled the room. Business owners, doctors, politicians, and community leaders. Mary wore a stunning royal blue gown that made her look like royalty. Her hair was styled perfectly, and she wore the diamond necklace Gideon had given her for their anniversary. But the real showstoppers were the triplets. Daniel, Samuel, and Grace wore matching outfits. The boys in tiny suits and Grace in a beautiful white dress. They looked absolutely adorable. As Mary walked into the ballroom holding Gideon's hand with their 3 children beside them, people stopped and stared. "Is that Mary Gideon?" Someone whispered. "Yes, and those are her triplets. Aren't they beautiful?" I heard her story. She started the Trinity Health Foundation after being told she couldn't have children. Now look at her. 3 babies and a successful business. Mary smiled politely at everyone, but her heart was pounding. She was nervous about her speech. They found their table near the front of the room. Veronica was already there, waving excitedly. "You look amazing," she squealed. The ceremony began with dinner and the presentation of various awards. Mary barely touched her food. She kept going over her speech in her mind. Then, after what felt like forever, the host walked to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "it is now my honor to introduce our keynote speaker for this evening. She is the founder and CEO of Trinity Health Foundation, an organization that has transformed the lives of over 1,000 women in our community. Please welcome Mrs. Mary Gideon." The room erupted in applause. Mary stood up, her legs shaking. Gideon squeezed her hand. "You've got this, my love. I believe in you." Mary walked toward the stage, and as she did, Daniel, Samuel, and Grace followed her. The audience let out a collective awe seeing the 3 beautiful children walking behind their mother. Mary reached the microphone and looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces stared back at her, and then in the 3rd row, she saw a face that made her heart stop. Johnson, you were sitting there looking older and tired. His expensive suit couldn't hide the sadness in his eyes. When their eyes met, he looked down quickly as if ashamed. Mary's breath caught in her throat. What was he doing here? But she couldn't think about that now. She had a speech to give. She cleared her throat and began, "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this incredible honor. My name is Mary Gideon, and I want to share my story with you tonight." The room fell completely silent. 7 years ago, I was thrown out of my home in the pouring rain. My husband told me I was worthless because I couldn't give him children. His mother called me cursed. For 7 years, I endured shame, mockery, and rejection. I believed I was broken. I believed I was a failure. People in the audience leaned forward, hanging on every word. But then something amazing happened. I met a man who saw my worth, not because of what I could give him, but because of who I was. Dr. Gideon believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and he helped me discover the truth. Mary paused, looking at her 3 children standing beside her. The truth was I was never the problem. I was perfectly healthy and fertile. But because of pride and ignorance, I was blamed for something that wasn't my fault. She heard gasps throughout the room. In the 3rd row, Johnson's head was down, his shoulders shaking. "Today I stand before you not as a victim, but as a victor. These 3 beautiful children, Daniel, Samuel, and Grace, are proof that God can turn shame into glory, that He can take our deepest pain and transform it into our greatest blessing." The audience began to applaud, but Mary raised her hand gently. "I started Trinity Health Foundation because I don't want any woman to go through what I went through. I don't want any woman to carry shame that isn't theirs to carry. We educate couples. We provide free fertility testing for both men and women. We break down the harmful myths that destroy marriages." Her voice grew stronger and more passionate. "Because here's the truth. In 40% of fertility cases, the problem is with the man, not the woman. But society always blames the woman first. We call her barren. We call her cursed. We destroy her spirit, and that needs to stop." The audience erupted in applause. Many women were wiping tears from their eyes. Mary's voice softened as she concluded. "To every woman who has been blamed, shamed, or rejected, you are not broken. You are not cursed. You are valuable and worthy of love with or without children. And to everyone here tonight, let's choose kindness over judgment. Let's choose truth over tradition. Let's choose love over pride." She looked directly at where Johnson was sitting. "I've forgiven those who hurt me because holding on to anger only hurts the person carrying it. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means I'm free." The entire ballroom rose to their feet in a standing ovation. People were clapping, crying, and cheering. The triplets looked up at their mother with big, proud smiles. Mary stepped away from the microphone, and Gideon rushed to the stage to embrace her. "You were incredible," he whispered. As they walked back to their table, people reached out to shake Mary's hand and hug her. "Thank you for sharing your story. You've inspired me so much. God bless you and your beautiful family." But Mary couldn't help glancing back at the third row. Johnson was gone. His seat was empty. After the ceremony ended, Mary, Gideon, and the triplets walked toward the parking lot. The children were tired and sleepy. Grace was holding Mary while Gideon carried Samuel. Daniel walked beside his father, trying to stay awake. "Mommy, you were so good up there," Daniel said with a yawn. "Thank you, sweetheart," Mary said, kissing his forehead. As they reached their car, Mary heard a voice behind her. A voice she hadn't heard in years but would recognize anywhere. "Mary." She turned around slowly. There, standing under the parking lot lights, was Johnson. He looked so different from the proud, angry man who had thrown her out years ago. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red. He looked broken. "Johnson," Mary said calmly. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. Gideon immediately stepped closer to Mary, protective. "Mary, do you want me to?" "It's okay," Mary said gently, touching his arm. "Can you take the children to the car?" "I'll be right there." Gideon looked at Johnson with hard eyes, then nodded. "I'll be watching from the car. If you need me, just call." He took the triplets to the car, but Mary could see him watching through the window. Mary turned back to Johnson. They stood there in silence for a moment. So much history between them. So much pain. I heard your speech," Johnson finally said, his voice shaking. "Every word of it, I know. I saw you in the audience, Mary." Johnson's voice cracked. "I don't even know where to start. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Mary said nothing. She just waited. "I went to the doctor," Johnson continued, tears now running down his face. 2 years ago. They told me it was me. It was always me. My sperm count is too low. I can't have children naturally." He put his hand over his face, crying openly. "Now you were innocent. You were perfect, and I destroyed you for nothing. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me because of my stupid pride." Mary felt tears in her own eyes, but she didn't reach out to comfort him. Some lessons had to be learned alone. Every day, Johnson sobbed. "Every single day, I regret what I did. I see your face in my dreams. I hear you begging me not to throw you out. I remember slamming the door in your face while you cried in the rain." He looked up at her, his face full of pain. "I lost everything, Mary. Rasha left me. My business failed. My mother is sick with guilt. I'm alone, completely alone. And it's all my fault." Mary took a deep breath. "Johnson, I forgave you a long time ago." Johnson's eyes widened with hope. You did?" "Yes. Not for you, but for me, because carrying anger was destroying me. Forgiveness set me free. Then maybe we could," Johnson started to say, reaching toward her. Mary stepped back. "Johnson, forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means letting go and moving forward. You and I were done. That chapter of my life is closed. But I've changed," Johnson said desperately. "I'm not the same man. I understand now. I know I was wrong. Please, Mary, please give me another chance." Mary shook her head gently. "Johnson, you didn't change because you wanted to. You changed because life forced you to. You only realized my worth after you lost me. That's not love. That's regret." She glanced back at the car where Gideon and her 3 children waited. "I have a real family now. A husband who valued me even when he thought I couldn't have children. 3 beautiful babies. A successful foundation helping other women. I'm happy, Johnson. Truly happy." "That should have been me," Johnson whispered, looking at the triplets through the car window. "Those should have been my children. That should have been my life." "No," Mary said firmly, "because you never would have appreciated it. You only wanted children to impress other people, to satisfy your pride. Gideon wanted children to love them, to build a family. That's the difference." Johnson fell to his knees right there in the parking lot. "Please, Mary, I'm begging you. I've lost everything. You're the only good thing I ever had, and I destroyed it." Mary knelt down to his level, looking him in the eyes. "Johnson, listen to me carefully. You didn't lose me because of fertility problems. You lost me because of how you treated me. The cruelty, the disrespect, the way you let your mother abuse me for years." She stood up slowly. "Even if we had discovered the truth back then, that you were the problem, would you have apologized? Would you have changed? Or would you have found another reason to blame me?" Johnson couldn't answer. He just cried harder. "I hope you find peace, Johnson. I really do. But you won't find it with me. That door closed the night you threw me out in the rain." "I know," Johnson said through his tears. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I needed you to know. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved so much better than how I treated you." "Yes," Mary said simply. "I did." She started walking toward her car, then paused and turned back one last time. "Johnson, learned from this. Treat the next woman in your life with respect. Listen to her. Value her. Don't let pride destroy your relationships, and get help. Medical help, emotional help. You can't change the past, but you can choose to be better in the future. With those final words, Mary walked to her car. Gideon opened the door for her, and she slid into the passenger seat. The triplets were already buckled in the back, half asleep. As they drove away, Mary looked in the side mirror. Johnson was still kneeling in the parking lot, alone under the lights, watching them leave. "Are you okay?" Gideon asked gently, taking her hand. Mary looked at her husband, then back at her 3 sleeping children. "Yes," she said with a peaceful smile. "I'm more than okay. I'm free." A few weeks later, Mary received a surprise visitor at her foundation office. It was Mrs. Margaret Johnson's mother. The old woman looked frail and much older than Mary remembered. Her hair was completely gray now, and she walked with a cane. "Mrs. Margaret," Mary said, surprised but polite. "Please sit down." Mrs. Margaret sat slowly, her hands shaking. "Thank you for seeing me. I wasn't sure if you would. What can I do for you?" Mary asked calmly. Mrs. Margaret looked down at her hands. "I saw your speech at the awards ceremony. Johnson recorded it and showed it to me. I've watched it 10 times now." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "Mary, I came to ask for your forgiveness. I destroyed you. I poisoned my son's mind against you. I called you terrible names. I made your life miserable for 7 years." Her voice broke completely. "And you were innocent. You were a good wife, a kind woman, and I treated you like dirt." Mary sat quietly, letting the old woman speak. "I'm sick now," Mrs. Margaret continued. "The doctors say I don't have much time left, and I can't die with this guilt on my heart. Every night I see your face. I hear the things I said to you. I remember how you would cry and still serve me with respect." She reached into her bag with shaking hands and pulled out an envelope. "This is all the money I have saved. It's not much, about $5,000. I want you to have it for your foundation to help other women." Mary looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Mrs. Margaret, I don't want your money." The old woman's face fell. Please let me do something to make it right." "You can't make it right with money," Mary said gently. "But if you really want to help, then help me spread the truth. Tell other mothers-in-law to stop treating their daughters-in-law cruelly. Tell other families to stop blaming women for fertility problems. Use your story to educate others." Mrs. Margaret nodded eagerly. Yes, I will. I promise." Mary paused, then said, "And Mrs. Margaret, I forgive you." The old woman broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you." Mary stood and walked around the desk. She placed a gentle hand on the old woman's shoulder. "You're forgiven. The past has no power over me anymore. I hope it doesn't have power over you either. Use whatever time you have left to spread love, not hate." Mrs. Margaret looked up at Mary with wonder. "Oh, how can you be so kind after what I did to you?" Mary smiled softly. "Because holding on to anger would only hurt me. And because I've learned that forgiveness isn't about the person who hurt you. It's about setting yourself free." After Mrs. Margaret left, Mary sat at her desk and looked out the window. The sun was shining bright. Birds were singing in the trees. Everything felt right. 5 years passed like a beautiful dream. The triplets were now 8 years old. Daniel had become a bookworm, always reading and asking questions. Samuel was the athlete playing soccer and running everywhere. Grace was the artist, always drawing and painting beautiful pictures. Trinity Health Foundation had expanded to 3 more cities. Mary had helped over 5,000 women and their families. She had been featured in magazines and on television. People called her the woman who turned pain into purpose. But Mary's favorite title was still Mom. One Saturday morning, Mary and Gideon took the triplets to the park. It was a perfect day, sunny, warm, with a gentle breeze. The children ran ahead, laughing and chasing each other. Mary and Gideon walked hand in hand behind them, watching with content smiles. "Remember when we first met?" Gideon said, pulling Mary close at that medical outreach. "How could I forget?" Mary laughed. "I was so broken then. I thought my life was over. And look at you now," Gideon said proudly. "Look at us. Look at our beautiful family." They sat on a bench while the children played on the swings. Mary rested her head on Gideon's shoulder. "Do you ever think about Johnson?" Gideon asked carefully. Mary was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I heard he moved to another state, started over. I hope he found peace." "That's very gracious of you. I learned something important through all of this," Mary said, watching her children play. "Bitterness only poisons the person carrying it. When I forgave Johnson and his mother, I wasn't doing them a favor. I was freeing myself." Gideon kissed her forehead. "You're the strongest person I know." "No," Mary said with a smile. "I'm just a woman who learned that God's timing is perfect, even when we can't see it. Even when we're crying in the rain with a broken suitcase." Grace ran over, her face glowing with happiness. "Mommy, Daddy, come push us on the swings." Mary and Gideon stood up laughing. "We're coming, sweetie." As Mary pushed Grace on the swing, She looked up at the clear blue sky. She thought about the journey she had been on. The pain, the tears, the shame, but also the healing, the love, the miracles. 7 years of waiting and suffering had led to this moment. 3 beautiful children, a loving husband, a successful foundation helping thousands of women, a heart full of peace. Higher, mommy, higher. Grace squealed with delight. Mary pushed harder, watching her daughter soar into the air, laughing with pure joy. And in that moment, Mary understood something profound. Sometimes God doesn't give us what we want when we want it, because He's preparing something better than we could have ever imagined. The woman they called Barren now had 3 children. The woman they threw away was now throwing lifelines to others. The woman they broke was now whole. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Like, share, and comment on the lessons you've learned. Let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. See you in my next video.